Welcome back to Montford Boulevard. Today we're working on a handsome Art Deco bookcase that deserves a second lease on life. We'll start by using traditional methods to restore and refinish what was already there. We'll also employ a few modern techniques as we upgrade and expand upon the original aesthetic. Follow along for another exciting, step-by-step Art Deco furniture restoration remake. The first thing we noticed with this piece were the waterfalls on the sides. You don't see that very often. Waterfalls were such a trademark part of Art Deco furniture, but to see them on the sides like this is kind of a rare treat. The wood was in really good condition, needs to be cleaned up, but that probably can be saved. The mechanism on this door was working well, which is always a nice bonus. We can keep that intact. These shelves were nicely cut, but oftentimes we'll have glass shelving cut to replace them, so we're considering that right now. The drawers work well enough. You can see the trademark dovetail joints. Definitely need to be cleaned up, but that's very doable. On the inside of this drawer, somebody had left some tea lights behind. Kind of interesting, tea light candles. This is a drawer stopper. You can see the nail was bent over, so that never really went in properly. The left one is still intact, so this will be really easy to put the right one back in. Looking in the lower compartment, and needs to be freshened up, but nothing really too concerning in there. Somebody had done some black and gold accent work, which is interesting. You can see the paint ends right there. We like to do the same oftentimes, and it was nicely done. So we are going to keep some of it, and we'll remove some later on. Now this corner was broken, but it seems like all the pieces are there, maybe just knocked in a bit. These are not original handles, not Art Deco handles. You can see some very attractive inlay wood here that's genuine inlay, and carefully chosen veneer on the front, very attractive. Some more of the black and gold accents at the bottom. It runs all the way up the sides of the waterfall and to the top as well, so we're going to decide what to keep and what to remove. The back side has that rustic wood like you always see with Art Deco furniture. And you can see the pencil math work, probably from the mill department when they were cutting the wood. It's funny, they always leave that on Art Deco furniture. But again, the condition is really solid for this piece, and it's probably savable, the veneer on the outside. Have it back in the shop here. We just gave it a good wipe down, and you can see again, the mahogany is looking very clean. A little bit of touch up here and there, but we're probably not going to sand and refinish that. We're trying out some handles here from our collection. Not sure yet what we're going to go with, but we're just testing this out. This is vintage Bakelite. These are probably 1950s kitchen cabinet hardware, we're guessing, these handles.
You, Mr. Clean, he's mean. He hates dirt.
Get these things out of here. You can see somebody added modern screws to these hinges here, kind of loose. The bottom ones are original, but all of these will need to be cleaned up, so we'll remove all of the hardware. Jump right into some sanding here. These columns on the front, we want to go natural wood on those, so just got all of that sanded clean. We'll address that later. And we'll get this washed out really good before we go any further. And right away, look how that cleans up. That was really encouraging to see. And some pretty dynamic grain in the bottom of this piece. There was some sort of resin dripped all over the inside of this drawer, so before we add some finish coat to it, we're going to scrape that off. Give it a good sanding too. We have these drawer fronts laid out here, looking at the front of them. You can see a little bit of cracking as you look closely. This might have been exposed to sun, this side of the piece. Before we sand, these are burn-in sticks. And there's the burn-in oven. We're going to do a little bit of a repair on the edge here, where the veneer was chipped off. Found a color that matches pretty closely, and this will just be a head start for the touch-up. Blends right in there. Jumping in with the orbital now. This is a thick enough quality veneer that it wasn't too much of a concern sanding it. Look at the drawer fronts, looking very attractive already. You can see the book matched effect, both horizontally and vertically. We're going to go to the buffer wheel now. Use the wire wheel to remove the coating on these hinges. Enough of it was chipping off that we're going to redo the gold on it using lacquer. These are the shelf clips. See, look at how fresh that's looking already. We'll coat them with gold lacquer and then with a lacquer top coat over top of that. Looking at that corner we mentioned earlier, and you can see that that piece sure enough was just knocked in there, and there's a bottom piece of thin wood that's holding it in place, so I'm just going to use my scraper to pop that back out. And that went right back in place there. So just a little bit of glue, mixed up some 2-part epoxy here. Put that both in the bottom and in the crack on the upper portion as well. Clamp that in place here, and that'll dry within just 10 to 15 minutes. So first we're going to address this trim on the front, and we do want to add some color here. But actually right away we're going to get into the staining on the drawer front. This is just a natural oil-based stain. There's so much color and character in this wood that we really don't need to add anything. Looking so fresh and clean there. Same thing on the fronts of these doors, and look at that burled wood just glowing through. I love how it contrasts those vertical lines in the other choice of veneer. Looking at the insides of the doors now, again some really dynamic grain. And here's with a couple coats of satin lacquer, so we're kind of getting a head start on the doors and the drawer fronts. Looking at the inside of the main compartment now, I've given that just a rough sanding, and we've got a lot of the trim clean, ready for some choices there. Lower compartment as well. Coming in with some black paint now, we're going to brush it for the interior, just to darken this a bit. And we picture this as a display cabinet for plates or wine glasses or maybe a curio cabinet. So we're trying something new here. These are pieces of waterfalls that we had left over, and I chopped them up into a couple pieces, and what we're going to do is actually mirror the sides of this piece, and we're looking at building a crown for the top. Just doing a little mock-up here, just to kind of continue that cascading waterfall fountain type look. We've mocked up a backsplash as well, but that's the general idea there. So now we're starting to put this in place. I've put a bottom base on this, attached it with screws and glue. Gonna try it out on the top there. We've seated it back just a little bit so that it's not too prominent, but you can see it kind of just continues with that same form on the sides. Gluing in a centerpiece here just to make this solid, complete the shape. Working on the door fronts here while the glue dries simultaneously on the other piece. We need to fill in the previous handle holes, and now we've touched them up. Make sure they disappear. This is on the insides of those doors, using the lacquer powders. A little bit of graining work. These are the handles we're going to go with, and these are actually modern handles designed in an Art Deco aesthetic. More on that later. This is that top crown piece. Got it clamped, and I've put a support on the inside of it there, just to make sure that thing stays together. Going to use some Bondo now, just to fill the crack. This is all prior to sanding, of course. So here we go, I've sanded it clean. And now we're going to add a couple different colors of stain to get the effect that we're going for. First, I'll just again put it in place, just making sure we like the feel of it. Working on the insides of these drawers now with some clear shellac. And the stain on that crown, as I mentioned. First, a little bit of antique walnut. It's a good base color. It's looking good, but you can see the wood behind. We want a little bit of orange in there as well. So we'll let that dry fully. And then we've got some dark mahogany stain over top of it. And that's closer, that's more what we're going for. You can see it kind of fits the natural color of this piece better. Working on a piece of wood for a backsplash now. We really like the different veneer choices in this piece, and we're just laying out the template for how we're going to cut it. And there's the centerpiece of that crown, where it's going to fit into the back of it. Just marking out center, making sure our shape is good. And here it is cut out and the edges are sanded. I used the bandsaw for that. Now it's time to sand it. Looking nice and clean. We love the different angles of the veneer in this piece. Same thing. Do the two different layers of stain, and here's the effect. Just a little bit of an orange glow to it. And we're actually using a shadow toner on those edge pieces of veneer just to give some separation and make it pop a little bit more. Art Deco is so much about geometric shapes, so we really like to emphasize that. And we're going to add some golden rays, almost like a spotlight shining up at night. Looking at this trim at the bottom now, and we're going to give that the same treatment. Actually going to mask for all of the trim. You need to really consider the order in which you approach these things and how it's going to interact when you're peeling off tape, so on and so forth. But we're going to start with black lacquer actually, and this is how the last artist had designed this piece. We're just going to redo it to freshen it up. After the black is done and sealed, we've got that masked, and now we're going to add gold lacquer on these verticals. That really kind of brightens it up. It's always fun to see how the black and gold just pop off of each other. Very common colors in Art Deco furniture. This black and gold, the horizontals there, that is original to, well, the last person who owned this, that was their choice. Now it's time for stain on the lower portion. These columns were partially black previously. See, that first coat is just a little bit too light, so we're going to come back in with the dark mahogany stain, gel stain, and that's the effect we're going for. Now it's time to freshen up the bottom of this piece. Looking forward to seeing that color come back in, just with some natural oil stain. Plenty of life there. We had noticed that the bottom corner of this was chipped off, so we used Bondo, just traditional Bondo, to fill it. They do make one for wood. We like the original formula. It sands very well. Got some French lacquer here, and you can see the brush was a little crusty. When you're using lacquer powders, you can actually revive these brushes and bring them back around pretty easily, which is nice. Gonna add some brown and a little bit of orange to just get this base color. Now, this is a French polish technique. A little bit of lac French on a balled up rag, and that looks good for the bottom. So these are the insides of the doors, and we have a shape we masked for that actually references the waterfalls on the sides of this piece. Like so. Again, that's the insides of these doors. You'll only see that if you open them up. And we now have this piece laid on its back, and we're looking at the back inside. For that, we have this black peel and stick vinyl with a really nice wood grain effect. We really like this product. We use it oftentimes for the insides of drawers. And it's just going to give a nice, clean, fresh look for the background inside this bookcase. Like so. Looking at the bottoms of this now, the feet, these metal cleats, we're going to get rid of them. They can kind of damage your floor, and they're also pretty worn. While we're at it, I'm going to clean up the feet here, the black. And we prefer these plastic glides, nylon glides actually. Going to pound them in, safer on the floors, and it really helps make it easier to move these pieces. Another look at these handles here. We really like this effect. Easy to grip. Such a nice geometric Art Deco shape. Designed a template here just to make sure we get the screw holes perfect. Make sure we have them centered properly. This is a shelf to go in the bottom compartment. And we're going to stain that, just give it a black. First we tried ebony oil stain actually, and it was not as dark as we were hoping for, so we're going to black gel stain instead. There you go. This was pine, but you can see how elegant that looks with some stain. Now this is the upper glass door. I'm using naphtha to clean it really thoroughly. And the inside edge looked a little rough, so this is actually pinstriping for vehicles. so it sticks really well. And we just want to clean up the inside frame with that. Like so. That's stuck right onto the glass, and it's really adhering well. This is the inside of that door. Now, we made a couple of designs. This is in Adobe Illustrator. Frank Lloyd Wright inspired, and this is a corner shape. We're going to make 4 of these. And this is for the front of that crown on the top. And what we're doing is bringing out our laser cutter. We're going to cut these out of 5mm thick wood. I'm using the frame mode here. The laser, you can see it shining on the wood, just showing us the work area where it's going to cut. I'm going to hit the start button and the laser will go to work. Close this up here, and we do have a nice exhaust system that draws that smoke out. But we have the door to our shop open as well. Just making sure we blow the smoke out of here properly. Checking on it, the design looks great, but you know what I realized? I did not properly set the distance of the laser, and so it almost cut through. You can see the light leaks, but not quite. That's what this handy tool is for. You can see exactly the distance you need with the laser, so I set it up properly the second time. Ran it again, and this was exactly what we were hoping for. Look at that, pops right out. Perfect. I'm going to set that in place, and that's exactly what we were hoping for. I also cut 2 corners out of this one piece of wood. We did that 2 times because we needed 4 of them, but look at that. Cuts perfectly. Came out just like we were hoping for. And if you look closely, there are no burn or scorch marks on the face, which is very impressive. Got the corner pieces in here. Gonna add just a little bit of personality to the fronts of this door. And we have painted them gold. Now I've added tape to protect the glass, and we've sanded the edges of this trim here so that the glue will adhere better. We're gonna use a 2-part epoxy. Now with the front lattice work for that crown, just the edge is gonna go black. Couple coats of black, let that dry, and I've masked off for gold about the same thickness as the rest of the design. Here's how it turned out with a couple coats of satin lacquer over top. Look at that. I'm not sure how else you could do that besides using a laser cutter. This is a backer plate to go behind that lattice work design. Look at that, it's almost like clouds. Very nice grain pattern there. I'm going to add some black lacquer to the edge here as well. Lacquer powders with Lac French. There you go, looking smooth with a coat of satin lacquer. And there they are, sandwiched together. That's a nice effect. So here we go, putting the gold handle on. Previously that was kind of a dull silver. I had coated this shelf with lacquer and it felt just a little rough to the touch. And when that happens, you can use 4O, that's 4 zeros, 4O steel wool. Just give it a light buff and that'll take care of that. Gonna wipe off all of the dust here. We then vacuumed it, add just one more coat of lacquer, and it was nice and smooth afterwards. Here we made a support for the shelf. Gonna add just a couple of nails to hold it in place. Positioning the crown just to see how it looks. And we're going to drill in from the inside, from the underside. Put some 1-inch screws in there. Used a recess bit just to sink it down in there. We used 4 screws. Now we're going to use some of that same black paint, and we're just going to use a Q-tip to dab it in there. We do want to leave access to these screws just in the event if anybody ever wants to remove that crown. They have that option. So we're going to make it disappear just enough in there. There's how it dried, and that'll look just fine. This is a pretty slick LED light that we purchased from Amazon. It actually has a dimmer switch. This is going to go on the inside upper portion of that cabinet, and you can see the dimmer working here. Very nice effect. It came with some 2-sided tape, which is very handy. Just like that. So again, easily removable. We're going to stand this up now. We drilled a hole in the back of it, you can see, for the wire to stick out. So you can plug in that light. And starting to come together. We got the clips back in for the shelving, and we did order custom cut glass. I'm going to spray some lacquer on the inside.
Furniture and product finishes demand gloss, luster retention, and durability.
Want to make sure you have proper ventilation, of course. Adding our custom shelf that we made. It was just such a large compartment, we think that'll make a better option for the lower portion. This is felt we're going to add before we put the glass shelving in, just for protection. And there you go. Looking a bit more modern on the inside there. Putting the drawer back in and looking at those handles, how well they go with this piece. We're very happy with that choice. And adding the screws and the hinges. We did have to add a couple more screws. Finally, putting the upper door back on. And with that...
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
We really enjoyed working on this Art Deco bookcase. It had a lot of personality to begin with, but we like to just kind of turn up the volume on the Art Deco aesthetic. Recently, we've had a couple pieces that sold right away, so do check out the link below if you're interested in purchasing this. We do offer free shipping, domestic United States. Thank you so much for sticking with us to the end, and especially to everybody who likes, subscribes, comments. All of it does help our channel. If you enjoyed this video, we've got another one here that you may also appreciate. We'll be back again soon with more Art Deco furniture. And you're welcome back here at Montford Boulevard anytime.